Hello, hello, hello.
Going? Hello.
Good. I'm glad we got you on a Thursday, because by Saturday, right?
We're all jaded and grumpy.
Exactly. I mean, can you imagine? Yeah, I can only imagine. So, the luck of the draw.
I'm going to take Saturday off.
So it's just a Thursday, Friday thing?
I'm going to relax on Saturday. I'm going to be dead by then.
Yeah, it's supposed to heat up. And
Now they're saying it might rain on Sunday, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
well,
That'll
yeah.
change.
Yeah. No, when you have to walk around a lot, you feel sorry for the people who are really in the big, heavy costumes.
I can't.
When it comes to, the heat wave, wearing the stormtrooper, you're like, I think I should have rethought the stormtrooper thing. Right? So what can I talk about?
I was going to ask, when you have an idea for a show, or you get involved in a show, how do you approach a network or a company and say, I want to make this show in Israel, and I want to do this?
Well, this one was had a different path. Usually that would be the case, but this one, it actually came from Gideon and I have a mutual agent, and that agent, Rick Rosen at WME, has been very instrumental in representing Keshet, which is the number one network in Israel. And so he was sort of single-handedly responsible for bringing over, In Treatment and Homeland and all of that. And so there was this pipeline already created with Israel. So when Gideon started thinking about this particular project, it was with the idea of doing it in Jerusalem, in his hometown. And so a lot of those discussions actually had already been had by the time Gideon and I met one another. And so in some ways it was a fait accompli. And the idea that Jerusalem and Israel were so willing to roll out the red carpet for us in so many ways was only an advantage. And I think we've now seen the world change so drastically that places that were never open for business for Hollywood are suddenly very open, and not only open but really encouraging and trying to win and draw productions there. You certainly see that with Woody Allen movies and that sort of thing. They're taking advantage of these exotic locations to film in. Can be very advantageous to the budget and for the production if you do it right. So this was one of those opportunities to go someplace where a lot of doors were open for us, and so it was. And I had become very interested in that. Having shows that had an international appeal opened the world up to me by, my traveling with the shows and going to the international markets. I began to see that there was a big, giant world out there that was available for production.
Was there a similar, since you're working with USA, was there a similar pipeline for Albuquerque? Because it's not the first show that's been done in Albuquerque by the network.
Well, this has all happened very quickly, this Albuquerque thing. And I don't know all the machinations, but yes, I think that their having had this pipeline has been very advantageous for us, because we really needed a show, a location that could double for a desert community, and we have scenes that are set in Morocco and the deserts of Israel, and the show actually had a whole storyline set in America that we were shooting in Israel. And it was difficult to shoot it in Israel because it's very hard to double America almost anywhere else but Canada, probably. It just, even the smallest thing, and you kind of don't realize, you kind of take it for granted, but just walking into convenience store in another country, all the labels are different and everything looks completely different. And so all of that is actually going to be now, it's one of the benefits of this bizarre circumstance we find ourselves in, is that certain things will be easier to shoot because of that.
Are you guys are you going to be using the same space that In Plain Sight did use? Or?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
No, we are our scout to Albuquerque is starting next week, and I don't know where we're going to be. We'll probably be building some locations, and then using some existing locations and shooting in practical locations.
These puzzles and questions that you guys are going to be opening up, do you guys already know the answers to them, or? Well,
we fortunately have written the vast majority of this already. We're all, and so we actually went to Israel when we started production with almost everything written, and so we left a little bit open because. Frankly, because we hadn't finished it. But to be really honest, you kind of want to leave some stuff open because in making the show, the pilot especially the pilot, the first episode, teaches you so much. There is a pilot process, obviously, in Hollywood that's tried and true, where you make the pilot first, and a lot of us didn't believe in it. It's like, why don't we just make the whole show? Just give us all the money up front and we'll let us spend it the way we want to spend it and all. But the truth is, I've come to really believe that you learn so much by making that pilot, and then you start to rejigger things, and certain things work, certain tones work, and it's a very organic process, and you go where the heat is. You realize that two characters don't have chemistry together, so you say, well, we had that whole storyline, let's get rid of that. But he has chemistry with him, so let's go that direction. And so it's always good to leave a little bit open at the end. So yes, we do. We know exactly what's going on, and that's one of the great things about this idea of event series versus an open-ended series is that. Some of us who have worked a lot in the open-ended series that have told serialized story, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble when you don't know where and when the ending is, and there's a real power to having an end date to something. And I talked about this earlier that J.K. Rowling, when she told the entire world that there were going to be 7 books, from the very beginning she did, there was a real power in that, because you knew as a reader where you were and scarcity, knowing that there were only 2 more left if you were on book number 5, was a very powerful thing. And I think modern audiences of television have come to really appreciate scarcity in that way.
Well, let me ask, so you guys are doing this event series, 6 episodes. If it is a huge success, would the idea be to maybe just have it continuing as events, or would you want to open up to a bigger, full season show? Well,
there's sort of 2 versions that I think are probably the scenario. One is that the 6 episodes expands for a little bit more, just to tell more of this story, because we certainly have the ability to do that, and would work fabulously. So we can expand this particular story. But the idea was, when Gideon and I first started talking about it, we thought it would be a very cool thing to create, rather than a series, a franchise. The idea that it's a story that can come back in a new location with a new set of characters and a new storyline, centered around the same core guy, our one, sort of Peter Connolly, our legal attaché. And the beautiful thing about that character is that he, as a legal attaché, you are stationed in a foreign country investigating crimes against and by American citizens. So he could very easily find himself in another place. Opening scene, you open up the shutters and there's, outside of his hotel window is pick your city, and the ability to do that just seems really exciting, and to tell another story that gives it that a sort of idea of a franchise character rather than a single story that, and it also allows you to take advantage of these wonderful actors in these places. We cast, I would say half of our cast of the people that you see on screen are Israeli actors, and they were the depth of talent is so vast there, and we were working with literally the best actors in the country, and so these countries have these fabulous actors with faces that Americans audiences have never seen, and I think it gives it a really unique opportunity. And audiences now are used to hearing things in different languages, and there's whole pieces of this show that are in Hebrew, which give it a real authenticity. And anyway, hope that answered that question.
All right, thanks.
Okay, sorry guys.
Thank you.
I'm being shuttled.